everybody. So I just watched a video by John Stossel. Don't know how many of you guys know John Stossel. I'm gonna repost it later, and it was about Africa. And he talked about in his video he had a lady from Africa. I think she's an entrepreneur in, I believe, a Western African country, and they talked about why is all this poverty going on in Africa. Over 50% of the people in Africa live in poverty, whatever that means. It's true, some of them and many of them live in poverty, but the question is why? And I have been very interested in this subject because I want to know why is there poverty, and I want to know how I can make a difference. Now, I have used part of my energy in life and time and resources to do something about this. Hey Calvin, it's good to see you, friend. How you doing? Through my nonprofit, and actually going back almost, you would say, 25 years ago, so that's a long time. I have done all kinds of initiatives to, as a pastor, and later on with the nonprofit organization, I have done a lot to do something for people that are less fortunate in Europe, as well as in Asia, as well as in Africa. And currently am involved through my ministry in a project for the last 7, almost 8 years now, that every month we help Christian children who live in the slums of Manila to help them go to school so they get a shot at life, because without education you just don't get a shot at life, and these children live as scavengers. So for $40 a month we can help a handful of these children to go to go to school, and then once they go to school they get a diploma, and then they actually can get out of the slums and not live as scavengers and live a better life to the glory of God. So having been involved in projects that deal with poverty, I follow this subject. I'm very interested how I can help, what can I do, and what can I help others to do. And so I've been part of all this for years. And the reality is, for those of us who have been involved in issues that relate to poverty, you end up realizing that poverty is not a problem. The problem is in the way people think. The problem is in the way the culture operates sometimes, ignorance. The problem is corruption, governments. And so I watched this John Stossel clip, and in this clip, John Stossel interviews this African entrepreneur, female entrepreneur, and the hurdles she has to overcome to be an entrepreneur in Africa, and also talks about charities, Western charities or Western businesses. And you could say Western businesses now, it's become very popular in the last 20 years or so to talk about social business and all that stuff. And they gave an example of a company that for every pair of shoes they sell in the United States, they give one pair for free to a poor country, and to a kid in a poor country in Africa. And she was so much against it because when you do that, when you start giving stuff for free, for example, shoes, what do? You destroy the livelihood of people who create jobs in Africa. And she gave the example of over 200 small, I think this was Senegal, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this was Senegal. And she gave the example of how Westerners coming and giving all this free stuff basically destroys local businesses. It destroys local entrepreneurship. The same is true for Haiti. Haiti has been per capita the most donated to country in the world. More money has gone to Haiti than in any other country. And you know what? It's doing damage. It's destroying. I talked to a guy who was in the Haiti years ago, and they talked about how it's almost impossible for someone, for example, to become a dentist in Haiti, because when they become a dentist and they want to start their own dentistry, like, they have to charge people something. If you're just a dentist and you want to have a dental office, and you're this, let's just take the most amazing Haitian kid, or this could be Senegal, this could be in so many other places, and you want to start a small business, a dentist, shoemaker, whatever it is. You go to school. Let's just say you're Christian. Those of you, a lot of you people on my Facebook contact list, you're Christians. Let's just take the best example. The brightest kid works hard, studies hard, goes to school, prays hard. He's going to be a greatest shoemaker. He's going to be the greatest dentist. He's going to be the greatest this and that. His family's praying for him, supporting him, right? And what happens? He graduates dentist school. He starts his own business. He starts his own dentistry, and it's a common sense. It's an economic principle that you need to charge for your services in order to recover investments made into equipment, pay for your services, pay for your offices, pay people that work for you, pay yourself. You're one of them employees, so paying yourself is important, right? And otherwise, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. You have to literally be mentally retarded to study, to invest time and money into a career, whatever that is. You're investing many, many years of studying and perfecting yourself, perfecting your skill, for example, to become a dentist, okay? And you start your dentist office, right? You're a Haitian kid. You've gone to school. You love your country. You love your people. You want to see recovery. You want to see get yourself out of poverty, help other people. And what happens? What happens? Who's your competition? It's not the guy next door who did the exact same thing. Your competition to two main groups of people: the United Nations and all their fraudulent schemes, okay? All kinds of government money from people who've never set foot in Haiti or Senegal or any other country. They never set foot. They've never been there. All right. And they direct these, they have these gigantic schemes where they funnel money from these institutions and programs. Okay. And then they go and then they recruit all kinds of people from America who have guilt. Okay. All these white people with incredible amounts of guilt they don't know what to do with, right? They don't know how to just flush it and get rid of it and reset their own thinking and realize your white guilt is not helping anyone. It's not helping you. It's not helping others. It's toxic. Just get rid of it, all right? It doesn't make sense. So you got all these people, and the pitch is you come to the mission field, come to these poor countries and use your skills, right? So the West comes with government programs, United Nations programs, all these globalist programs, right? Because of white guilt, because of financial schemes, right? They come to these countries and they start to compete. They come with free services, free dentist services, free this, free that. And they begin to destroy the local entrepreneurs who have invested many years of labor and study, and that's what we do. The stupid Westerners, white guild Westerners mostly, that's mostly the people that are ruining this whole thing. So the third world countries today, as we know it, don't need your white guild. They don't need your white guild programs and white guild money. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. It involves arrogance, because you actually think that those countries, be it Haiti or Senegal or any other country, you actually think that there aren't people in those countries who have enough skill to put up a dentist office. Well, let me tell you something. I'll give you an example with like Austria. Austria is right next door to Slovakia, okay? And Slovakia used to be a struggling Central European country. A lot of people nowadays actually hop in their car and they cross over the border and they go and get their dental services from Slovakian doctors because they're more cost effective, but the quality competes with Austrian dentist, right? Here's a good example that a former communist country, if given the chance, if this totalitarian regime is destroyed, these people actually would develop, because God has created. Remember, we hold these truths, right? The Creator has endowed all people from all races, from all over the world. So long as you're a human being, so long as you're not a giraffe, so long as you're not a chimpanzee, okay? You have skills, you have abilities. Everyone has them all over the world, all people. And the problem is not learning how to use those skills, not developing yourself, which is why education and vocational schools are important, because they develop you. They take what's in you and they develop it, right? But you have then these government programs that suppress and destroy local entrepreneurs. So what can the West do? What can the West do to help the situation? Stop helping. That's the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do is probably share an expertise and help the local, national talent to develop. They'll take care of their own, okay? They'll take care of their own. They know how to take care of their own. That's the formula. That's the success formula for us to see God's plan actually work, because God has great people in all the nations of the world. So what you do is you identify those that are willing to study hard and work hard, help them to become better so they can take care of their own. That's how it works. That's the best plan. It's very simple, but you have these fraudulent government programs, United Nations globalist programs, that are wrecking it and ruining it for everyone. And they're just evil. Okay, then you have these white guild businesses, right, who are so arrogant, they think they need to come and they need to give you a free pair of shoes, because they're so arrogant not to realize that there are very good shoemakers in Senegal or very good dentists in Haiti, and they will do just fine. Okay, we don't need your free services. Just do something else, right? And I can say all this because I have done, unlike most people, I have done my fair share of raising money for the poor. I've crossed borders, I've raised money, I've put out my reputation, I've called on people to donate, I've organized the projects, I've done all this. So I have earned the right to speak to these issues. I'm not just some observer who is like keyboard warrior. Okay, I'm currently involved in a program that basically helps disadvantaged children in the Philippines to go to school, get an education, and then make your own choices, succeed on your own. That's really the formula. You help them where they can't help themselves so they can get on their 2 feet and succeed in life. And why the title of this video, and I'm not gonna make this too long, but why are they silent? Why are they silent? Why aren't people speaking up? And you have to understand that no one likes truth tellers. They don't like them. Okay? If you go out, like somebody's gonna hate on me for speaking the truth, especially the do-gooders. Right? Especially the arrogant, proud, religious people who are full of guilt, religious or white guilt or religious guilt or whatever guilt. A lot of people are full of guilt. Guilt and shame is at the very center of the greatest manipulation engine and machine and system in the world. Okay? If you want to manipulate and control people, use guilt and shame. For example, why do we have the Reformation of the Middle Ages? What was reformed? What was changed? It wasn't just some ideas on paper. An economic engine was destroyed. the Roman Catholic Church was using guilt and shame to sell indulgences. They had, for example, indulgences, which was a document that the Catholic Church issued, and you can go and purchase an indulgence to save you, to spare you from 1 million years in hell, in the purgatory, actually. So they had all this stuff going on, and once they got the money, of course, they built the cathedrals that they built, which I guess we need to go now, organize ourselves and go and tear down the cathedral, the St. Peter's Basilica. And, if we have to follow the BLM logic, we need to go and tear down all these cathedrals because many of them were built through indulgences. And here's what I'll say to that. Bull crap. All right? It is what it is. It's history. It's happened. It's in the past. Live now. Okay? Push your own reset button and start living now. Start finding excuses for your mediocrity and laziness and stupidity. Just push the reset button, start your life, make the most of it, all right? That's the best you can do. If you don't like that, too bad. I don't care to. This is not a popularity contest, so I just speak truth. Nobody likes people to speak truth. Because when you speak truth, you're disrupting someone's little fraudulent scheme. And in the Middle Ages, the fraudulent organization that was disrupted was the Roman Catholic Church, who was selling these papers, these indulgences. And then comes along Martin Luther, who actually had no intention on disrupting anything. He was ridden by guilt and shame. He didn't know what to do with his own guilt and shame. So Luther discovers the spiritual truth that the righteous shall live by faith. All you have to do is believe that Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah, Christ, he has died for you. And if you're a Christian, that's what you believe. He died for us, for the sin of mankind. He took it upon himself. And if you believe it, and if you confess it, if you accept that gift, you're forgiven. You don't need indulgences, right? It's a spiritual truth. It's church stuff. It's, these Christian people, whatever they believe. But it struck the very epicenter of the greatest fraudulent machine for raising money for Rome, which was the sale of indulgences. And as a result, people are like, hey, I'm forgiven. I don't have to give money. I don't have to purchase these indulgences. Great. Funding for Rome ceases. The entire German nation says, we don't need to serve Rome. We don't need to be part of that thing. We're going to have our own national German state. And so actually, the Middle Ages gave the rise of what we call today the nation state. So, Germany or the Netherlands, all these prior to that were basically, they were domains of the Roman Catholic Empire. As somehow, one way or another, the Pope controlled the princes, and the princes controlled each of their own, and the dukes and all these royals, they controlled these territories, Bavaria, Bohemia, and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, there was a superdome called the Roman Empire or the Roman Catholic Church, and it was what protected Europe, what kept Europe together. And now all of a sudden, all these national princes, German princes, come together and they say, we don't need to be under Rome. We can have our own national German state. So all the Germans, Saxons and Bavarians, all of these people organize, and they organize. And that's how the emergence of the modern nation state. So today we have these nations, we have these countries, Germany, this and that and the other. And it came from people getting free from the dominance of Rome. So why am I saying all this? Because nobody likes truth tellers. And that's why there's so much bloodshed. And there was bloodshed in the Middle Ages, and there was bloodshed for many, many years. Because every time you have someone who speaks truth, if I can speak truth right now, that will begin to expose the fraudulent pastors and ministers here in the Twin Cities and tell you, show you from Scripture how fraudulent they are and what disservice they're doing to God's people, how they're leading people astray. So what? People are just going to hate on me. Who wants to hear the truth, right? Be nice, be cute, be smile big, be greasy. That's what works these days, And that's why we have this situation. That's why the fraudulent globalist scheme, the United Nations going on. That's why we have governments government subsidies, destroying people's God-given talents and abilities. And that's the tragedy of the human race. So why are people silent about that? No one's going to like them. They're going to fight them. They're going to shut them up. And we see this in America today like never before. If you begin to expose Islam, if you begin to expose communism, Marxism, you're just going to be hated, mostly hated. A small group may admire you, but you're going to be mostly hated. So how many people are going to make a decision and say, yeah, why don't I just become a very hated person? Just wake up one day and say, it's a good day to become a very hated person. Most people will not do that. And that's why we are at where we're at. So it has to come to a point where truth is more important and dear to us than our own very lives, where we will actually calculate the risk and we'll say, you know what? If many of us begin to do the same thing, then the repercussions will be less and less for all of us. But because most people they hope and they're like, well, we'll just hope all this goes away. But if 15 people begin to expose, and I know people right here and now in the Twin Cities, ministers who know exactly what I'm saying, that Western aid and Western money are wrecking actually countries and they're crippling the recovery of entire nations. I know people know that, but they won't say it because they're cowards, because they have vested interest, they have their religious careers, because it's gonna rock the boat, it's going to disturb. That's why America is failing right now, because truth is uncomfortable here, because truth has no place. America is no longer a home of truth. It's no longer friendly to freedom, because truth and freedom go hand in hand. You can't have truth without freedom. You know, freedom is like a lab. Think about freedom is like this lab. And you have all these, like, if you ever been in a lab, and I graduated a school that was all about lab work. I graduated as a clinical lab worker, so I've done my fair share of lab work. Okay, you go into a lab, and you're given certain instructions. I remember this teacher we had, and she was like, "Hey, if you want to leave lab without your face disfigured, don't mix this bottle with this bottle, right?" So I mean, there are certain rules what you can do in this lab and what you can't do. Otherwise, you blow up the whole place. So liberty is like a lab. There are rules, but it's a lab. So certain things you can't do to preserve liberty, to preserve the lab of ideas. You cannot do certain things. You cannot stifle free speech. You cannot roll up your sleeves and start fist fighting with the person next to you because his ideas may be dumb. Well, if they're dumb, just argue better for your ideas and what you believe, and may the people choose. Okay, more power to whoever is better able to articulate their ideas. And we've lost the lab of freedom, the lab of liberty, the lab of truth. You know, you cannot you can't blow up the lab and then say, why don't we have inventions? Why don't we have inventions? Because you destroyed the lab. Why has America prospered in so many patents? America files more patents than all the other countries in the world taken together trail behind America when it comes to patents that are being filed and turned into commercial products. Why? Because we've had liberty. We have economic liberty. We've been allowed to think, and America has been the place, a home of liberty, where people can think and experiment and rise and fall and start over again and all that. That's liberty, right? But if you destroy the lab, if violence is introduced, ideas need to fight with ideas. Now we have people saying Antifa is an idea. Well, no, ideas don't burn cities. People burn cities. So if you have such great ideas, why don't you articulate your ideas and then allow for people to make up their own mind? Why don't you articulate your ideas and go out and tell people what your ideas are, and may the people choose what to follow? But no, Antifa has no ideas. The one idea the communists have is burn things down, violence. There would be no communism in the last 100 years except for one thing: terror and violence. There would be no communism except for one thing: terror and violence. Communism has never succeeded because it's great ideas. Ideas have never made communism succeed. It's terror and violence. That's it. The same thing with Islam. Islam has never really succeeded in the world because we Christians are so confused. We're so full of ourselves and so arrogant and so not willing to set aside everything we think we know and see the world for what it is. If you just get out of the way and see things for what they are, you'll realize this. Islam is not like Christianity. You know, Christians today in America think, how can we be good at apologetics? How can we argue better ideas? How can we go out in the marketplace of ideas and tell people about this and that and the other, right? Because you think of rational people. But the world out there is not full of rational people. The world is full of very ignorant, underdeveloped people and countries. They're basically quite savage, to be honest. If I have to, uncivilized, okay? And the way you engage uneducated people is through just raw emotion. Someone is bad, demonize the Jews, demonize Israel, demonize the white man, demonize capitalism, and then you just sweep everybody into this great movement. And Islam, what do you do next with the evil? Once you demonize the white man, the capitalists, once you demonize, kill them off, and then justice is served. That's the formula of communism and Islam. It's basically, there are no ideas. The only idea is terror and violence. That's why the Second Amendment is so important. The only reason America is still a free country is not because of the Constitution. Okay? And I'm going to finish with this. The only reason America is still free is because we have the guns to back up the Constitution. If the Constitution was just a piece of paper and the populace was disarmed, you would have no Constitution. Actually, who cares what a paper says? If the good people of this country, the decent people of this country, there are between 400 and 500, some people say 300 million, 400, I've heard up to 600 million guns in the hands of mostly decent people, okay? 90% of Americans have at least one firearm at home. So what does that do? That means that whoever determines to take over this country and impose dictatorship of some kind, they're not going to read the Constitution. This is like the signs. You go into a bank and there's a sign that says no guns allowed. Do you think a criminal is going to walk into a bank and read a sign and say, gee, whoa, unbelievable, I'm not allowed to bring a gun. I was just thinking of robbing this bank, but man, that sign, wow, it just changed my mind. I repent. I'm so sorry. And, you know, why did I even bring this gun? Why am I such a terrible criminal? I better go home. I better go to jobs.com and apply for a job. No, criminals don't think like that. If you don't know this, you've never met criminals. You don't know what they're like. Hardcore criminals don't care. They don't care what a sign says. They're full of one thing, their own idea of how they go get what they want, whether it's through violence or fraud or whatever it is. So signs don't stop people. Statements don't stop people. Outrage on social media doesn't stop criminals. The Constitution in and of itself, and even the courts, are not going to stop these people. They don't care. The only thing that stops them potentially is if the good people of this country have the ability to defend themselves. First, of course, we have law enforcement and the police, but when that wall is broken down as they want to break down the first line of defense, then the next line of defense is the armed citizen. And then you have to deal with a bunch of armed citizens. So it's going to be a little difficult for Antifa or BLM or whatever jihadi terrorists out there. It'll be a little difficult for them to break down all these barriers and get to us, but they'll try because they're mentally unstable, they're confused, they're crazy, and that's what they'll do. Islam has never won because of ideas, neither has communism. It's all because of terror. So why are people silent today? Why aren't they exposing these fraudulent schemes? Why don't we have prosperity in the world? Why do we have poor people? Because truth tellers are hated mostly. And it's upon truth tellers to do something with the truth they know. Organize people, build up a base, mobilize, energize, get strong, or connect with others and put up a fight and basically somehow make their mission successful to speak their truth without necessarily being destroyed by the institutions, the tyrannical institutions and fraudulent and fraudulent individuals. Thanks for listening. I look forward to bringing more videos and sharing with you thoughts around faith, liberty, and charity.